go across to our high-powered panel from Assocham. Yes, we have them with us on the show. We're joined by Sumant, Sinha, President Assocham, joining us live. Vineet Agarwal, past President Assocham, also joining us on the show, and also welcoming Rahul Garg, Chairman, National Council on Direct Taxes from Assocham as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. I'm sure you heard Madam Finance Minister decoding various salient features of the budget 2023. I'm going to start quickly with President Assocham, Mr. Sinha. What do you think, first of all, are the striking impact areas here where the government has accorded prime priority, and the before wish list and what we've seen today? Are you satisfied?
Yes, look, I am more than satisfied, and I'll tell you why. You know, this is an election year. This is a year in which there are a lot of macroeconomic uncertainties globally as well. India, as we all know, has, through very prudent macroeconomic policies, emerged as a very bright spot in the global economy. And I think the whole focus of the budget has fortunately eschewed populism and has focused on two things. Number one, fiscal consolidation, which is very critical, and especially in an era of global uncertainty. And number two, has focused very much on infrastructure spend, and also along with that, looked at creating extra demand in the economy through the tax benefits that they've given to the Aam Aadmi. And by doing all of that, it really strengthens the domestic economy very strongly in a way that allows us to not just have growth in the near term, but also have growth in the longer term. So I think a lot of the elements of creating a stronger economy from a fundamental standpoint are really being addressed. In addition to that, there are very positive facets in the budget with regard to the MSME sector, with regard to agriculture, with regard to greening the economy.
Yes.
There are a number of very positive themes that the budget has tried to address, which are all meant to really make the economy stronger, more efficient, and more viable in the long run. And so I see several years of fairly good GDP growth rate, for which the fundamentals are being put in place right now in an election year, which is quite an important issue.
Okay, so let me go across to quickly Rahul Garg, Chairman, National Council on Direct Taxes, Assocham. Now, sir, there's a lot of buzz about the new tax regime and what it really has and how it augurs well for the country, for the citizens. Finance Minister said that new tax regime is now a default regime. If you could just decode further this for the viewers, for people to really understand, is this truly now going to be a sort of good news for the salaried and middle class, the slabs now that we are looking at that have been slashed? Rahul Garg.
The new tax regime has been in a statute book for some time, but the new thrust that has been given in this budget indeed makes it a default tax regime for most of the taxpayers, whether salaried or non-salaried. Particularly two things are remarkable. One, that up to 7 lakhs, there is no tax if you avail of the rebate. So for 7 lakhs of income, there is no tax is one remarkable feature only when you are in a new tax regime. Second, the new slabs, which are recasted slabs, where the top marginal rate is reached only after 15 lakhs of income, is available in new tax regime. Thirdly, the top rate of income tax surcharge, which has been reduced by 5%, now is available only to the new tax regime. So I would say that for a spectrum of taxpayers, from very low to moderate income to very high income, the new tax regime gives the savings in the tax payment, except for a very small number of people who, for their peculiar situation, may still opt to follow the old tax regime.
So it is a win-win situation for the middle class and upper middle class and those below middle class. Vineet Agarwal, your take on specifically on the tax slabs.
Well, I concur with Rahul around the specific theme around the fact that the middle class is also getting a good fillip. So yes, it is an election year, but I think this was also needed. I think the change in this tax slab had not been done in some while. And if you see the inflation for the last few years, cumulatively this has had an impact also. So I think this is really, really good and ultimately if once the entire country moves to one kind of a tax system, I think the way that we are able to even collect tax becomes easier in the future. Otherwise, there's always people who are trying to guide in terms of what will be your best tax structure, but in a simplified tax structure could lead to actually further tax collection also. So yes, I totally concur with this.
Okay, Mr. Sinha, before I come to the next segment, what is your assessment of the new tax regime?
Look, I think it's very positive simply because, at an aggregate level, if you look at it, the finance minister essentially is putting an additional 37,000 crores in the hands of taxpayers, and that to me will act as a boost to the economy by creating more consumption demand, and I think that will be very positive. It will allow, therefore, private sector companies to invest in creating more capacity, and that will again lead to growth. Of course, it will also be good for the common man because most people are, by the calculations that the finance minister showed, going to get more to spend in their hands. And even if it reduces 10 or 15%, that can be quite considerable for a lot of people.
Okay, a quick one on the domestic manufacturing sector. There seems to be a lot of focus on that as well, which in way means more jobs, and ease of doing business has been simplified further. How do you look at that?
No, look, the reality is that the whole manufacturing sector was neglected for many years earlier. I think this government has realized that this is a very important part of the Indian economy that is very important for job creation, and therefore the whole focus on the PLI scheme, I think PLI scheme has been announced across almost some 20 different sectors, and perhaps more will be looked at. And I think over the next 2 to 3 years, as some of those investments start to happen, you will see a lot of jobs being created at a local level in different parts of the country. And I think eventually all of that will lead to broad basing of economic growth in the country.
Vinita Agarwal, do you want to comment on that? Ease of doing business?
Yes, certainly. I think there was also a mention of almost 39,000 compliances that have been reduced by the government, and also some decriminalization of some of those compliances have also happened, which is clearly a step in towards ease of doing business. And then there's clearly the PLI scheme, the fact that even states are now vying at an individual level for attracting more manufacturing. I think that's also great. Also, the fact that there is still some time for new manufacturing units to come up and hence avail the 15% tax rate if you start before the sunset period. So all these incentives are very clear cut in terms of job creation, in aligning with the global supply chains also. I think we have to remember that China plus one strategy of many MNCs is now starting to play in India. They want to invest more and more in India, not just to service the domestic market, but also use India as a platform for global exports. So clearly, manufacturing is a big play for the government, and the share of GDP should definitely increase in the next few years.
Okay, before I move on to Mr. Rahul Garg, we'd like to inform our viewers and our panelists also, we are just standing by for this mega exclusive, DD exclusive with the Honorable Finance Minister. We would be cutting live to my colleagues Mark Lynn and Ajay in a short while from now, and we'll get to hear Madam Finance Minister, we'll get to more and up close and personal on what this budget 2023 is all about and the rationales behind the decisions that have been taken today for the betterment of the country. Rahul Garg, coming to you, that point on the 33% hike in the capex outlay. Now, I was just going through some reactions coming from the other verticals of the industry. There's a lot of talk about how there is a transition from the substantially the government-led capex to the private sectors actually coming into the play. So private sector is happy? Okay, we cut live to Finance Minister exclusive, DD exclusive.